So let me start this with an embarrassing
Yes, please.
confession. An
Here we go.
embarrassing confession I have to make. I've never seen Die Hard.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Are you that fucking hipster and like snobby?
It's no. It's not a hipster thing. I think I've talked about it on this podcast several times. But growing up, my parents were very uh, watchful of the media that I consumed,
Right.
and there's no way they would have ever let me see Die Hard.
It is an American classic. It is
I know.
so. You've never seen any of them.
No, never.
Has your wife seen any of them?
I'm sure she's seen the first one, the first two.
You should do it. It's well,
I almost did it today for this episode because I know that there was like a lot of references to it.
oh my, that is so crazy. That is like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
major. It's also a really good movie.
That's what I've heard.
Like it's really good. So you don't when people say, "Oh, and the quarterback is toast," you don't know that.
No.
And obviously, you know Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, but only
Right.
from people referencing it.
Right.
Oh man, that's. I mean,
I think I maybe saw like the second half of the second one in like my friend's house in 1991 or something like that, or whenever that movie was released on VHS. I think.
damn.
But yeah, there's no way I would have been able to see that when I was a kid.
Well, I think you have some. I don't know, some work to do, some homework,
Hey, I'm just being honest, you know.
and I appreciate it. I'm not.
I'm putting myself out there.
I know, and I sorry if I appear to be mocking you or making light of the
No,
trials
no.
and tribulations that you've suffered at the hands of Ed and Cindy.
Yeah.
But were they just like cautious or were they religious? I associate the two
I think
things. Like,
I think it's a combination because my mom is the more religious of the two. But I don't really think it had much to do with that. I think it was more just yeah, I don't know. There was something about anything that had bad language was a no. And then like violence was like sometimes okay, sometimes not. But I think with Die Hard, it was the R rating.
okay,
I
that's not
think
unreasonable.
right. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed.
But here's
But
okay. So I feel for you because
okay, I'm
it
not
sucks
looking
to
for
have.
sympathy.
I,
Yeah,
well, it doesn't matter what you're looking for. You get what you get. You don't control
okay.
me, bro.
Yeah.
Um,
You're right.
So you do have my sympathy because it sucks to grow up in an environment where parents are dumb and they're trying to do their best or whatever. But
Yeah.
for the past, let's say, 10 years since you were an adult, you could have corrected the problem. Whose fault is it now?
Right. I think yeah, it's my fault. I get that. I think a big part of it is like, 10 years ago was like, well, God, I still haven't seen it, but like it's too late for me. Like it doesn't even matter anymore. Like I can't make up for lost time. That time is lost. I don't want anyone to see me watching it. I don't want anyone to hear about it.
No, dude,
Uh,
this is like a classic issue that people have. Like, no, everyone that cares about you would be stoked to watch it with you.
yeah. Well, maybe we'll screen share, watch it tomorrow or something.
Netflix party, hell yeah. All right, well, we know what we're doing for the next episode.
Oh shit, that's what we're doing tomorrow. Yeah, nice.
Perfect.
That worked out.
I think it may be a rental, but
Yeah, I think it is.
or
Because
maybe
I looked today and it seemed like it was like iTunes thing was like the only option. But I know that Carl Winslow's in it.
fuck yeah.
Okay, I know that Bruce Willis is visiting his, I want to say, ex-wife.
Not quite.
What is it? Sister?
No, it's his. I think it's his current wife, but
current wife.
Yeah, I think
they're on the rocks.
She took a job in L.A. and he was supposed to follow. So he's
Right,
New York.
so he's in
LA.
New York. Right,
Yep.
right. See, hang on. Let me get all of this information out.
Sorry.
So he comes in from New York.
Mm-hmm.
He takes a cab to, oh God, what's the name of the company? It's something Japanese.
Come on.
It's something Japanese.
This is another classic one. My friend was in a band called this. They named their band after it.
What is it called?
Nakatomi Plaza.
Nakatomi Plaza. Okay, so he takes a cab to Nakatomi Plaza.
No. Just slight correction. He does not take a cab.
Oh,
they send a car for him.
they send a car. Okay, so he gets
pretty
there,
important.
and it's a Christmas party, I believe,
Yes, it is winter break.
company Christmas party,
Yep.
and at some point, some Europeans take hostages, and I believe Alan Rickman is one of the Europeans.
That name sounds familiar, and they're not just European; they're German.
They're German, the
Yep.
most European of all.
Yeah.
And then he's like in the air vents.
The Germans put P in European.
Yeah, he's in the air vents, and he's wearing a wife beater. And by the end of the movie, it's all like dirty and bloody and yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Or was that in the second one? Is it in the first one?
First one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It
And,
probably comes back somehow. I mean, it was such a classic, like iconic line that
Yeah.
I would be. I mean, I've seen them both even recently,
Right.
but I don't remember. But yeah, the only thing that I would say is, do you remember when Frank's stepping on broken glass?
Yeah.
That's from the movie too.
Okay. Well, as we go through this episode, maybe you can point.
Oh
things
yeah,
out.
yeah.
I was guessing
It's
like
really
the
not that
end
much.
when Frank was wearing a wife beater and like had a gun taped to his back.
Yeah,
That was something from Die Hard.
yeah.
Okay, and that's kind of it. I almost got it mixed up with Lethal Weapon because I was going to say, and there's like these twins that have blonde hair, but that's Lethal Weapon, which also I have never seen.
You're thinking of Lethal Weapon 5?
Yeah, I know I am, but I've also never seen Lethal Weapon.
I don't know if I've seen it. If I have, I don't remember it. So that could be. Speaking
Maybe
of Frank dressed as John McClane.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles. I'm your host, Nate Harold. I'm here with my special guest, Will Noon. And today we are talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Season 3, Episode 4, The Gang Gets Held Hostage. Written by Rob McElhenney and again directed by Fred Savage.
I feel like he should make an appearance, but I don't think he does. He's, because now it's not just a one-off sort of thing.
So yeah, basically this episode is the Patty's Pub is infiltrated by some hostage takers. I don't know the
Evil bandits.
and they are taking the gang hostage while Frank is in the air vent looking for his will, and chaos ensues.
Yeah, pretty much. So can we just jump ahead and out of order and say, I'm not entirely sure I figured out the will situation.
I was gonna bring this up too because I don't think I understood it.
So, okay, let's do it. I feel like this is a fun experiment. So Frank enlists Mac to help him hunt through the vent system and find his will, which Frank got Charlie to hide. So Charlie made the map, and it's hard to decipher because Charlie is, limited capacity intellectually.
So far, so good.
So Frank wants to find the will and destroy it
Correct.
because he thinks with the will intact, I guess he thinks Dennis and Dee have the most to gain from him dying or something. He thinks they're going to kill him.
Right. I think that's what's implied is that Dennis and Dee are going to kill Frank, which has not been really alluded to anywhere else in the series, season, whatever.
But okay, so he's paranoid and he thinks they're going to kill him possibly to get his money. But so in that scenario, it seems like he probably wrote them into his will, thinking they were his kids.
That's probably a will from 10 years ago or, a while ago.
Right. So from whenever prior to them realizing that they aren't his children. And now he thinks they think he might take them out of the will. So there's impetus for them to kill him soon. I guess that makes sense. There is motivation for them to kill him before he changes his will. Because the longer time goes on, the more chance there is for him to say, these aren't my fucking kids. I'm going to not give them my money.
Right. And I just thought of it. The last episode was all about Barbara's will. And so that it was on his mind. That's it.
Right. Okay. So he wants to destroy the will so that he can write them out, or at least not have the the threat of them.
Right. Yeah. It's
Like,
it is unclear no matter how you you dice it. How do wills work though? Like if he made a new one, wouldn't that like void the old one?
yeah,
I don't know how they work.
I think that I think Mac actually might point that out at some point, like before he goes in. I
Yeah.
think Mac's like, well, why don't you just write a new one? Like, go get a lawyer. and
Yeah.
get it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think he's like, there's no time. We got to do this now.
Right.
Maybe he thinks like it's imminent, like it's going to happen today.
It's crucial to the plot of this episode.
Right. There's a very important reason why he
I
has
think
to be
that
in the
might.
dance.
I think that might be the main impetus for.
But okay,
crawling
so
through the air vent.
so it kind of makes sense. The dying and the will are on his mind. He thinks it's important. He thinks his
Yeah.
kids are going to kill him, so they get the current will, and he doesn't have time to change it. So
Okay.
my question is, okay, and I haven't really thought about this, but moving on later in the episode, Mac and Charlie sort of plot to undo, to subvert Frank's plan,
Yeah.
because so Mac is at first in with Frank because he wants his like
Yes.
10% cut. He wants the cut from helping Frank find and destroy his will. But then
And Mac is the only person not involved in the lineage.
right, he has nothing to gain except if he helps Frank decipher Charlie's map. But
Right.
later on, when Charlie and Mac discuss it and Charlie finds out what's happening, Mac and Charlie make this plan to somehow negate what Frank's doing so that Charlie can get all of the inheritance. So they're going to kill Frank.
Right.
But do they want to find the will, and then so if they get rid of the will, then get rid of Frank, then Charlie as his next in line, would he get it with, like, if there's no will, it probably would go to Charlie if he can prove that he's his son.
Right. So what I'm wondering now, as you're talking through this, I'm wondering if, okay, so is it that Frank's will is written so vaguely that it's like my offspring will get the will?
I don't think so. I think it's probably says D and Dennis. That's why Frank needs to get it and destroy it. If it just said my offspring, then they wouldn't have reason to kill him because they aren't his offspring.
Right.
So they wouldn't be in it. And I think
Right.
if the will and Frank goes away in Charlie and Mac's plan, then with no will, it would probably go to next of kin. That's probably like the default mode
Gotcha. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
inheritance.
So
and Charlie is next in
most to
line.
gain. Right.
So I think that's,
Theoretically.
so it all kind of checks out. Seems pretty reasonable.
Okay. Yeah. I'm satisfied with this.
Okay, good. See, I totally think we can do the ass crack bandit. I think we can crack the case.
Yeah.
Crack the case.
There was one thing that I noticed about this episode, as if we're talking about more like grander schemes. There was a lot of kissing in this episode. Maybe the most in any episode of Always Sunny.
Okay, yeah. Dennis seduces Margaret, and they make out a lot.
All right, that was nice. It was very hot, sweaty, and passionate.
Charlie slaps Dee repeatedly and then kisses her and then slaps her.
I love you.
Liam like licks her face, Dee's face, and then
Right.
like does like a weird like baby calf like mouth motion on the side of her face for a while.
If you want to be a McPoyle, you gotta earn that the hard way.
And you will learn that later on. But for now, the challenge is this.
Right, he's like eating her hairline.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was saying the McPoyle family trio, they don't make out at this in this episode, I don't think.
Yeah.
What is there any other kissing?
No, I think that's it. But it was just like all of those, except the Charlie and Dee thing was pretty short. But
Yeah.
the other two were kind of long.
A little gratuitous. So,
Yeah.
Speaking of Fred Savage, do you want to skip the kissing parts? Does it make you feel uncomfortable?
No, it's cool.
Okay.
I'm down.
So you're
I like
more of a the end of Princess Bride, Fred Savage, where he comes around to it and he's like, I don't mind the kissing part so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get this reference or not.
Yeah, because he was in Princess Bride, right?
Yeah. Well, I said Princess Bride, so that was obvious at that point.
Yeah, but he's like a little kid and kissing's gross.
Yeah.
That just reminded me that when I was researching Stockholm Syndrome for this episode, I fell into like a true crime hole and I learned a lot about Dread Pirate Roberts.
Right.
which is also a Princess Bride reference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's all connected.
It's also a pretty brilliant concept that maybe is common if you're like, I don't know if you know pirate lore or other like nefariousness.
That
But
it's like a multiple person entity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For those of you that don't know, and I don't know, God save your soul if you don't know Princess Bride, but the one of the main like villains is the Dread Pirate Roberts, and we find out later in the movie, spoiler alert, that it's actually not one person. That every few years, the Dread Pirate Roberts sails around and eventually gets tired and wants to retire with all this money. So they bring on he finds somebody that he likes and he promotes them to his like assistant, and then they take on an entirely new crew. Then they switch spots, and the assistant becomes Dread Pirate Roberts, and the former Dread Pirate Roberts becomes the assistant and addresses him that way. So everyone on the crew assumes that, and the legacy continues. So when Ross Ulbricht, is that how you pronounce it? So he was theoretically he was the head of the Silk Road website, which was like basically a dark web eBay type place where you could buy and sell passports, fake or real, I don't know, guns and drugs and all sorts of nefarious things, typically using Bitcoin. And I think the implication is pretty great in that he might not be the original owner, or he might not be the next. He might pass the torch down.
Right.
Anyway, that was boring, but I think it's a really cool concept.
Yeah, I mean, except in this case, it really seems like it was just him.
Yeah, probably just a clever name.
Certainly not definitive, but based on YouTube, Professor YouTube that I studied with today, it's probably just him. Yeah, well, I obviously got a little distracted when I watched like one video about Stockholm Syndrome, and then the next thing that came up was Jodi Arias and her crime and subsequent trial was very interesting. That didn't have anything to do with Stockholm Syndrome. The video that I watched about Stockholm Syndrome was about the actual event where the name was coined.
Oh,
which was
cool.
in Stockholm, Sweden.
Sick. Okay.
It was a bank robbery.
Nice.
Anyways, so he was like a safe cracker back in the 70s, like the summer of 1973, I think is when it was. And so, yeah, he goes into this bank with a gun, a submachine gun is what I heard, which seems crazy in the 70s in Sweden to have a submachine gun, but I guess it's possible.
Cool.
So he shoots up in the air and says, "The party is started," and takes 4 hostages, 3 female, 1 male. And his first demand with the police is that they spring his buddy out of jail and bring him down to the bank.
Okay.
And they do that.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah. That was my exact reaction to that part. Was like, huh, that's pretty cool.
I wonder if the friend got there and was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You get me out of jail and then you deliver me to a situation where all of the police are surrounding us? Like, what?"
Right. Apparently, that guy was like a celebrity criminal in his own right, as like a bank robber.
Okay.
Anyway, so he takes these hostages, and to my surprise, this lasted 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. And they just lived together in the safe, like the giant walk-in safe thing.
Cool.
And oh, that's the ice cream man. I was like, what the fuck is that sound?
I'm sorry.
Crazy.
Say that one more time.
The ice cream man is downstairs.
What is the temperature outside right now?
Yeah, it's probably like 25 Fahrenheit.
Like, it's below freezing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it hasn't been above freezing for like a month.
The sun has already set, correct?
It's dark. Yeah.
What? You don't think that's like a murderer, child abductor? Like, what is that normal?
Much like the situation we were texting about yesterday, where you said a guy was contacting you after a month of silence about selling you a car.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you call the paper chase.
But who is going to? Where's the efficiency of going out when it's below freezing after dark in an ice cream truck in Sweden?
Well, the kids are out of school, they're home.
Okay.
It's maybe time, like before dinner time. Okay,
Who's
so
going to
anyways,
leave their house when it's 25 degrees out and run out into the street to get ice cream?
you'd
It's
be
fucking
surprised.
bonkers.
You'd be surprised.
Does everyone in Stockholm have Stockholm Syndrome with the weather?
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, the video didn't really go into depth with like his relationships with the individual. Like, each person. Like one was like a 30-something-year-old mother of two. One was like a 21-year-old. I think those were the only two they really like talked about. And then one was like a guy. So the cops eventually drilled a hole into the safe and were threatening to put gas.
Monkey knockout gas?
Monkey knockout gas, right?
Yes.
Monkey knockout gas. Now that's the kind of grounded, sensible thinking I want to see this year.
The guy taking the hostages, he ties nooses and puts them around the hostages' necks and then puts them on chairs. So he's like, yo, if you pump this gas in, they're going to, fall unconscious and hang themselves.
That's awesome. I mean, sick and depraved, but kind of awesome.
Anyways, I don't know how it eventually ended. I think he did end up gassing them and it didn't kill those people. And so the guy got arrested. But the thing is that all of the captors kept in contact with him after the case and like wrote him letters and visited him in prison. And so they just grew to empathize with this guy.
Right.
Which is now known as Stockholm Syndrome. And also the bank robbery took place in this part of Sweden where I know you have been, because they turned part of that area into a hotel that we stayed at, the Nobis Hotel.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Nobis. Ooh,
Yeah.
fancy. Did you and I happen to visit the bar, and did I happen to bring fruit into this bar?
Sure did. That's where I met my wife. Or I mean, more or less, yeah.
Aw, so cute. What people don't know is that Nate was so nervous to meet her, and I had to go wingman, and I brought fruit. I think I was in my pajamas. And,
You were.
And I went into this like fancy hotel bar in my pajamas with like a handful of oranges, like tangerines,
or clementines. Or
clementines.
yeah.
Oh my God, is that why you named your dog Clem?
Yeah, that's why.
And the reason why your wife stays with you is because of Stockholm Syndrome. This is such a perfect little.
Gonna get to that part. Yeah.
Oh, this is such a cute story. You guys have a cute origin story.
It is pretty cute.
I mean, it really helps for me in my pajamas to show up at the fancy bar with a handful of fruit. And that's why I became the Fruktegiva.
Well, we technically met at the show. After
Boring.
the show
Edit that out. Boring.
Wait. Let me get to it. We met at the show, and then our tour manager, Jason, was like, band van is leaving like right now. And I was way too nervous that I was going to get lost if I took like the subway, and I didn't want to take an Uber. So I went back and I regretted it. And then I texted her like an hour later, was like, I'm not trying to be a creep, but if you want to hang out, we're staying at the Stockholm Syndrome Hotel.
I know I was just taken to jail, but if you didn't mind your time as a captor this evening and you would like to become a captor
Of my heart.
if you want to live inside the safe of my heart.
Right. So, yeah, Stockholm Syndrome is basically just taking the side of your captor. It happened with also Patty Hearst is like a famous example of that. But this happens in this episode with Dee and the McPoyles. She full on
big time
walks over to their side. They are facing each other, and she walks over to their side and cocks a shotgun and points it at them.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. That
the gang.
She has like a little monologue.
Oh, well, that's a great idea.
Dee, shut up. What the hell is she talking about? She's got Stockholm Syndrome.
No, I don't. No, I just think it's a good way to decide who to kill first. I'm trying to put myself in their position. You know, it's called compassion, dickheads. Maybe if you guys had a little bit of it, you wouldn't be in this mess in the first place, and then we wouldn't be standing here trying to figure out which one of you we have to kill. But that's where we are, so hand me that shotgun. Because I'd like to do this mess myself. Get on your knees, bitches!
What are you doing? Now you're on their side?
She goes from saying that, no, it's a reasonable idea, because they decided to do an immunity challenge with teams.
I think Survivor was very popular at this time.
Right. So there's a Survivor-style immunity challenge to see which people get shot in the face first, and which
right.
get immunity. It's a good monologue that kind of segues and ramps up, but as you said, she like pumps the shotgun, and you hear the classic
One-handed.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Using
it's
the
not
weight of
rubber.
it. But
Yeah.
they do that so many times. They have that noise so many times. And then at the end, she picks up the gun and says, oh, it's a rubber gun.
It's rubber.
It's like,
Right.
How, A, you picked it up earlier. B, we've heard it pumped so many times.
Well, yeah, it's a little loose, just like Frank being in the air vents is a little loose, looking for his will.
I think it's looser than Frank being in the... I mean,
It is.
we've already established Barbara just died. Her will was an issue. Dennis and Dee are terrible people. They just realized that they're not, I don't know. It's reasonable.
So rewinding a little bit, speaking of taking hostages and all that, so the McPoyle, like it's super fast in the beginning of the episode. The McPoyles come in. They don't know who they are at first because they're wearing what are those called? Balaclavas, those ski masks.
Yeah, ski masks. The Pussy Riot uniform.
Right. Anyway, so it's the McPoyles, and they're taking them hostage. But the first like real scene with them with their masks off, like after the title card,
so good,
is them calling the police and making a list of demands. Is it Ryan or Liam who wants the Planet Hollywood jacket, reversible leather jacket?
Jimmy Simpson is, Jimmy Simpson is the one. He's making the call and making the demands for like the $1 million or $10 million or whatever, the helicopter, blah blah blah, and then the other one jumps in and says,
And a Planet Hollywood jacket, leather one, reversible.
Anyways, the reason that I brought that up is because the gang reacts to that, and they're like, "There's no way they're going to get one of these jackets. Like that place doesn't even exist anymore."
What was funny for me is that, and this is a sort of an Always Sunny thing, is that they start by this like group chatter. It's like a free form like ad lib thing where they're like, they're never going to meet those demands. That's ridiculous. How are they ever going to? They don't make those jackets anymore. So you learn to like it's a believable thing at the beginning when they're complaining about the demands, but then they shift quickly into which part of the demands are unreasonable, and it's not the millions of dollars. It's the reversible leather jacket.
Right. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is because in this like rapid fire sort of ad lib sounding dialogue, they're like, you'd have to ask like Stallone for his, and then I think Dennis says, or Aykroyd. So this is just an interesting world that we live in where they know who Dan Aykroyd is, they know who Sylvester Stallone is, but Danny DeVito is on their fucking show.
Right.
Like, you could say that he's as big of a star as those guys.
Right, but he's not Danny DeVito. He's Frank Reynolds.
I know. It's just fun. It like pulled me out of it for a second. I'm like, yeah, but we're talking about like 80s guys in movies.
Right.
I don't think Danny DeVito had anything with Planet Hollywood, but it's just an interesting world that they live in where those two guys exist. Danny DeVito doesn't.
That would actually be fucking awesome. And again, they probably referenced people, because it's a funny bit to reference people that had something to do with Planet Hollywood, but I could see them referencing Danny DeVito at some point or one of his movies, because that to me would be pretty good. Like,
yeah.
If they did reference or like said something shitty about one of his movies.
So what else do we need to touch on in this episode? So
I want to go backwards. I know that we haven't even started, and I don't think we are because we've been doing it for like an hour yet. So this is going to be the most chaotic episode, which I'm really excited about. But when the McPoyles first come in, and we don't know, when the three masked bandits come in with shotguns, the gang like negotiating without the other side is so good because they're like,
don't shoot, okay? Just take whatever you want. Yeah, take the cash register. Take the girl.
What do you mean take the girl?
Don't argue with them. Just go. You better just go with them.
But they're not trying to take me anywhere.
Don't try to be a hero, D. Just do what they say.
They're not saying anything.
Right. They offered D before they said anything about what they wanted. They were like, take the cash. No, take the girl. Like before anything else had been discussed. Yeah, they were just fine getting rid of D.
Yeah, they unsurprisingly they threw her under that bus pretty quick.
Immediate. Yeah, even before basically the negotiation happened.
And even after, I think they said the bandits said they didn't want her. They continued to throw her under the bus. And it's just, again, D, the voice of reason. Being they said they didn't want me, and then they keep going. Pretty great.
So I guess the one thing to note about this, like I always point out the alliances, This
Right.
one is all over the place.
Oh, it's constantly shifting.
It's backstabbing, arm
which
stabbing.
I guess is more of the survivor thing, I guess.
Yeah.
maybe.
So it starts. We start with Mac and Frank being aligned. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
Then after they've been taken hostage, Dennis and Dee align.
Right, but that's like an obvious, like literal. Dennis goes to each of them and says that
Temporary,
he wants to make an alliance.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I guess it's Charlie and Mac, but it's also Mac and Dennis around the same time.
Yeah.
And then it's Dee and the McPoyles versus the gang.
Right. Well, that lasts 10 seconds.
And then it's Frank and Charlie versus the McPoyles while the other three are being held at gunpoint.
Right.
And then it's the gang versus the McPoyles again.
Right.
I'm just pointing out that the alliances are extremely temporary and all over the place.
Yeah, this one is a constantly evolving scenario.
Yeah, because then Frank is like totally by himself for a good part of it because he's backstabbing Charlie in a sense, and then Mac is backstabbing Frank at the same time.
Yeah. Mac, the Mac Frank alliance is quickly dissolved, unbeknownst to Frank, when Charlie and Mac team up. Little double agent action.
And let's see, the McPoyles do it. They have a great tactic. Well, first they turn up the heat while Frank is in the vent, and that's just a really funny. Was that a Die Hard reference? Him being in the vents like that? No,
I thought it was, but I actually don't think it is. I think the lighter thing might be.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't think they turn the heat on necessarily.
Anyway, so the McPoyles turn up the heat because that's their natural habitat.
Yeah.
And then in order to confuse the cops, they make everyone dress like them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Pretty smart. If there were cops involved, it probably would have worked pretty well.
Right. Yeah.
Because then everyone has the same clammy, disgusting, wet bathrobe / long T-shirt.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a great excuse for us to see the gang in McPoyle outfits, which is
Definitely.
great.
There's a scene where Liam wants them to take him seriously.
I think I could walk out of here right now. I don't think you'd do anything, because I don't think you're serious.
You don't think I'm serious?
No, I don't think you're serious.
Oh, you think I'm bluffing?
I think you're bluffing.
You think I'm bluffing?
I think you're bluffing.
Then bluff this. Ryan, stab somebody.
There's a lot of stabbing with the McPoyles.
Yeah, he got. Isn't that the same arm he got forked? Oh no, Charlie got fork stabbed.
Charlie got forked. Yeah.
Right. Also, the when I'm doing the research, I saw that the doors are all barricaded from the inside, but they all open to the outside.
Oh yeah.
So they're not really barricaded. There's just stuff in front of the door. A customer could have opened the front door, seen a bunch of chairs, and like pushed them out of the way.
Yeah. In hindsight, it seems like it's pretty obvious that they're just fucking with him. But
Right. What else did they do? They offer them warm milk as their...
right, because the gang wants beer, and there's a really funny scene where they're negotiating to get the coolers with the beer. And
So, guys, do you mind if I grab a couple of beers? Because I feel like we would be a lot more relaxed if we had some beer. Oh, and a cooler. Do we get a cooler?
Good idea,
We don't
Charlie.
keep the beers cold. All right.
yeah, so the milk comes in handy when Liam gets stabbed because,
Right.
as we all know, milk can heal wounds. Yeah, everyone knows that.
That's why androids are so hard to kill. They're so tough and reliable because they have milk
And they have
inside
milk.
them.
It's all coming full circle.
Speaking of Margaret, I really like when... I forget when the first time... Oh, when she's guarding Charlie and Mac when they're on their break because the McPoyles forced the gang into groups. Two of them are going to dig. The other two are going to rest, which I thought was pretty funny because they hadn't done any work. Theoretically, it's like 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. or whatever. No one's tired, but so Mac and
you rest in the bathroom.
right, that's the resting place. So Charlie and Mac go in there, and Charlie's covering his mouth because he doesn't want her to read his lips. And Mac's like, wait, can she do that? And he like tests it by like...
Here, check this out. Do you understand what I'm saying? No. Can you understand the words that I am saying?
You know what I am saying?
You can't read lips, can you? Right.
Doesn't seem like she can read lips, but as they like stare at her and try to gauge some reaction, she's just like stoically staring back at them, and then all of a sudden her tongue like darts out and licks her lips really quickly, like very lizard-like. That was a really good sound.
Thanks.
I hope that gets onto your soundboard.
Oh fuck, I forgot about that. Oh,
You
well.
dummy. Anyway, so Margaret really, I think, starts coming into her own with that tongue thing. It's pretty great.
Yeah, and that scene is great because that's when Mac and Charlie start kind of collaborating,
Right.
conspiring together. And Mac shows Charlie the map, and Charlie's like, "That's a decoy."
Oh,
Like,
the decoy map.
The real map is on my body. And there's a great scene where Charlie farts in Mac's face.
Okay, so two things. One, I think Charlie does a really great job acting in this scene.
Yeah,
He's like fired up somehow. I don't know why he's fired up, but he's like, "Oh, decoy. That's a decoy." He's like,
yeah,
ready to go. And Max is just like dumbfounded. He's like, "Oh my God, you're a fucking genius. A decoy map?
Right.
Where's the real one?" He's like, "Tattooed on my body. Let's do this. All right, you're going to check it out." And he like drops his pants, and that's how he gets Mac to put his face in his butt and he farts. Okay. Second thing, is this a reference to that like jailbreaky movie where the guy has like prison plans tattooed on his body?
What movie is that?
Maybe it's a TV show. I think my mom watched a show. Like,
Is it Prison Break?
It seems like a reasonable guess. I just figured you would know stuff.
I don't. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm really letting you down in this because I've never seen Die Hard, and I don't know the movie where the guy has the jail plans tattooed on. Prison Break.
Prison Break. There you go.
I was kind of right.
Know it, even if you don't know it. But yeah, if you have it up, what year was that released? Because
That was 2005.
Oh, so that would have been
Yeah, this would have been
a couple of years
A
after
reference.
that show started. So
a clean, clear reference.
there we are. So it turns out that is the real map.
And that's when they have to dress like the McBoyles, followed by the who can break the most stuff contest.
The immunity challenge.
Dee and Charlie versus Mac and Dennis.
Right. And they both have plans.
Yes.
So Dennis and Mac, Dennis comes up with the plan saying that he's going to seduce Margaret in the bathroom. He's going to sneak her away and then seduce. And he like takes off his jacket and says like the pecs, that's what's going to do it. Charlie's plan, he convinces Dee to smash stuff as a cover, and he's going to go into the back office and smash stuff, and no one's even thought of that.
Right.
Dee says, well, isn't there way more stuff out here to smash? And that's when she gets smacked the first time.
Charlie, I feel like there's a lot more stuff.
Hey, listen to me, okay? I don't blame you for that betrayal, but you're acting nuts.
He convinces her because he does this sometimes. I think he railroads people. Oh, I think when he convinces Mac to bang Dennis's mom in the office.
Right.
And he's he's like,
totally
no one will
the
ever
same.
find out. He's like, but wait a second, what if they find? He's like, well, it's so crazy and offensive and terrible that no one will ever find out. And he just like railroads him, and he's like, you're right, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So he does the
becomes
same.
extremely convincing very fast.
Yeah. He has this like gift, and so he does that, and Dee starts agreeing with him, and then she gets smacked again for no reason.
Right.
And she's kind of like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? And then he's like, okay, let's do this. I'm counting on you. I'm gonna save you. I'm gonna do it. And then the awkward kiss where he kisses her, like,
Right, and
pretty
then?
firmly, and then for no reason smacks her again, and then leaves.
Right.
Also, the smacks feel pretty genuine. Like they're doing a good job at like slapstick acting.
Yeah.
Next time we see each other, we should do that.
Sure. Yeah, so the Dennis seducing Margaret is just a great Always Sunny scene. He takes off his robe and he's got these underwear on that fit him in a really funny way. He kind of looks like a little kid.
You're a stone cold fox, and I want you. I gotta have you. I need you. I want you inside me.
Everybody with like awkward tighty whities kind of looks like, just like white trash adult children.
Yeah, exactly. And so they make out and she tastes like milk. And I guess he is not aware because he wasn't in the bathroom before, but he is unaware that she can't understand anything.
Yeah.
So his plan was all for nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, the seduction part is amazing, and I think she does the cool lip thing again, and he's like, okay, I guess that's her engage. I guess at that point, he thinks that she can understand him.
Right.
Because he's being seductive, and she
She's
reciprocates
licking
the
the lips.
best way she can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the making out is funny. He references her tasting like milk, and then the end when he realizes what's going on.
No. Oh, God. Please tell me you understand what I'm saying. Do you understand me? Do you understand? Oh, you don't understand, do you? Oh my God, this is all been for nothing.
And I like when she like starts to re-engage the kissing.
No, that's over.
She kind of like leans forward and like it's almost like a fish bite, kind of like
Or like a baby bird. Yeah.
yeah, like a non-teeth. It's like a lip-oriented biting motion. She's just kind of like
And so the McPoyles say time's up, and the bar is hilariously smashed. They just completely destroyed the bar.
Right.
And Dee's like, no, Charlie was in the back office. Like, we won. And they run back there, and the air vent is just comically.
The air vent is like hanging on
Swinging.
by one screw, just swinging with this little gentle squeak going on, and it is a pretty comical scene. It's a good cut.
Right. And Frank is then warned by Mac that Charlie's on the loose.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank's like, yeah, whatever. I'm not scared of him. And he mentions that he's stepping on broken glass. And Mac informs him that he is in Charlie's bad room.
I think you're in Charlie's bad room.
What the hell is that?
It's where he goes to be alone and break bottles.
And that is a specific reference to Die Hard.
There's a bad room in Die Hard.
A room becomes bad in a way.
I see.
And
don't spoil it.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. But it's already been spoiled.
So Charlie and Frank have a very dramatic interaction.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Charlie's being a real psycho, and then ends up tearing the will.
I like that very much. That's exactly why I came up here.
No, it's the... Oh, yeah, I guess it is.
But he lapses back into like psycho creepy Charlie mode and like brings his hands up and approaches Frank like he's gonna strangle him or something. And Frank's like, wait, what? Back off. What are you doing? Stop doing that. And it's dramatic for a second, and then he gets close enough, and then Frank just pulls out the gun. And Charlie's like, oh.
I think Charlie says goodbye, Dad. Right.
Yeah.
The gun pulled on him.
Yeah, he's gonna kill Frank. I'm not sure. Oh, I guess because he's the child, and other than Frank wanting to kill him also, but so he says goodbye and attempts to strangle Frank, and then Frank just pulls out the gun, and then Charlie immediately reverts back to like normal, casual Charlie, and he's like, "Dude, what? Where did that thing come from? Do you carry that around everywhere? Gosh, okay, let's go."
Yeah. So at this point, they are more or less aligned, Charlie and Frank, even though they both just try to kill each other,
which equals out,
Because Frank, they need to get out. So Frank needs Charlie to show him how to get out.
Right, and Charlie needs Frank not to shoot him, so it's a good
they
alignment.
go through the vents. Yeah.
So
Meanwhile, the gang is being trotted out upstairs onto the roof, where the plan was before that the McPoyles were going to escape by helicopter.
Right. Which, okay, this part's kind of weird because the original plan was to get the demands, and then shortly after that they said, all right, the demands aren't going to be met. New plan, we're going to tunnel out. We're going to tunnel into the building next door and then get on the roof.
Right.
And then go away by helicopter.
Right. Liam makes a great sound when he does the helicopter.
Yeah.
Which I'll pop in here.
And escape by helicopter.
Now the third plan is like just going to the roof some other way. No tunneling. But they still end up on the roof.
Let's just go with it.
Right.
They end up on the roof.
Yeah, I can't. What do you think the McPoyles' end goal was being on the roof?
I don't know. I think that was, they were just going to leave them there, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of. Because I mean, that's what they did, but.
Right. Yeah, it's just
logically,
weird.
If it was like a real hostage situation with like police involved, I don't know what their plan would have been.
Even if they knew there were no police, they knew it wasn't a hostage situation. I'm just curious, like, were they going to maybe try to get somebody to jump off the roof or scare them into thinking like that? I don't know what the
threat, like a threat, like we'll push D off if you don't. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
do something.
So that's sort of the culmination. This is our peak at the end when the McPoyles have them on the roof, surrounded or something. But then Charlie and Frank bust out of the vents and they say, we're free, yay, we got out. And the gang's like, oh, you're here to save us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we came here to save you guys. Yeah, no, we came to
exactly it. That's why
save
we
you.
came.
So here we are.
I guess the McPoyles realized that Charlie and Frank thought they were out, but now they've just gone from the frying pan into the fire.
Exactly.
So they've got them sort of surrounded. They've got guns. They point them at them, and that's when Charlie and Frank, more so Frank, starts to just laugh hysterically.
Yeah, there's a really extra long, panning between everyone laughing. Frank and Charlie, the McPoyles, the gang is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then Frank takes his gun, which he, for whatever reason, taped to the back of his shirt.
Right.
Don't need to know why. It just works perfectly. And he starts firing live rounds
Right.
at the McPoyles.
Again, I think we've seen him shoot once or twice before, but he has a terrible shot.
He's not good with firearms. No, he's not.
I wonder if someone had to like, if they had to do like multiple shots where he like did one and it was too realistic. But he's like, he basically like throws his hand sort of in the air and shoots like he's like flinging the bullets out of the gun with force.
Right.
Like he's just like making this crazy wild motion. The McPoyles get scared. They start jumping around. They drop their guns. And it was kind of an awkward cut, but all of a sudden Ryan is falling off. Can't tell her. Ryan, yeah, he's at the edge and he's like, oh no, I'm at the edge, I'm scared, and he falls, and then Liam goes to catch him, and he does, and there's this really like sort of that epic like when each person grabs the other person's wrist, slow motion brother, yeah, and then
so if I was getting ready to fall off a building and you slow motion came running to me, would you say best friend?
For sure.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, I would address you as you relate to me. I think it would be good in slow motion too. So he catches him, and I think there's a chance that he's going to save him, and there's a really dramatic scene where he's dangling.
Right.
But then Frank creeps over the corner with like some sort of random 2x4.
2x4.
And pushes it up against his face, which is awesome, and just like pushes him down out of his grip. And there is a really dramatic, really good scene where the fingertips just slip past each other. Right. Everything's in slow-mo. It's really tense. And then you see Ryan falling and waving his hands and being, concerned about plummeting to his death. And there's a perfect cut to a side view where you see him fall 1.5 feet and then land on the ground. Undramatic.
He's got maybe his heel is bruised. That's kind of it. And it was kind of fun.
Yeah, he's kind of fun. I was all
And then he points out that there's a ladder right there. So he's like, why don't you guys just come down? So the McPoyles just take the ladder down, and they're on the street, and they take off.
Yeah, that's when Dee picks up the gun for the second time in the episode and claims that it's rubber. And they realize that the McPoyles were just fucking with them. I think they...
Revenge.
It's all revenge for Doyle. Yeah, for Doyle McPoyle.
Also sending them to jail.
Well, actually, did they say that they were square at one point?
Oh, right.
Fist bump. Said they were bump it. So I
guess this is for Doyle.
This is specifically for Doyle, who didn't make the Eagles because Frank is a terrible shot with the gun. So, so they run away, they realize what's up, and then, I guess they go on with their lives.
And that's it.
That's all Fred Savage wrote.
He didn't write it. I would give this episode a B. I'm not a huge fan
shite.
I'm not a huge fan of bottle episodes, which is what this is, where it's just in Patty's.
The fact that they're not in a different location is why you would take like 15 points off.
It's a little.
Score.
I mean, it's a little claustrophobic. I think it's a good episode.
They're in the bathroom. They're in the bar. They're in the back room. They're in the vents. They're in Charlie's bad room. They're on the roof.
How would you rate this episode?
A+. Easy. 100%. Flawless.
I love it. Any time the McPoyles are there, it's very welcome.
Oh my God, there's so many good things. Like Charlie's firing. Dee is super weird. Dennis in seduction mode is kind of, I think that's his thing. Yeah. It's just like the abrupt changes that, when, as we were just talking about, when Frank and Charlie are like at odds and they're just like, oh God, come on. You always carry that thing. Like,
that's great.
So many good, I was just,
they use different music, which is always kind of jarring in Always Sunny. They use like the action movie sounds.
Yeah, the tenseness. Yeah. Unless I read it on the little fandom wiki thing, I would not have thought, oh, they don't leave the bar. I would have never, it wouldn't have registered as a thing that happened or didn't happen.
I think I'm very sensitive to bottle episodes.
Do you think claustrophobia is a thing you deal with in real life?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
The most claustrophobic show that I can think of that I love is Battlestar Galactica, which is an extremely claustrophobic show for big stretches at a time.
Does it just like happen in one small spaceship or something?
It's a big spaceship, but so many of the scenes are in one place in so many episodes that I don't think those are considered bottle episodes, but that's just another show I can think of where like I really notice it. Like in Community, the episode where Annie loses her pen, it's not one of my favorites, which is where I learned the phrase
bottle episode. Yeah, I wouldn't have known it except Abed references it because he's very meta or whatever.
I'm not saying this episode is bad by any means. I'm just saying there's
you just
so
gave
many.
It a B, not even a B plus.
I gave it a B. I think our rating systems are quite a bit different.
Yours is wrong, mine's right.
Okay, there you go. There's just this. I have to save my A pluses for a very specific few episodes.
I understand.
So
if
many
you
of them
don't
in
really
season...
like the show, then you wouldn't give a lot of them A pluses. So I understand.
Ouch.
Join us next week when I get a co-host that actually likes the show.
So apparently, when this is just a little bit of trivia I'm reading off the internet here, because I did notice when Frank pulls the gun, he says "Yippee ki something," but I was like, I don't know.
Falker or
Mr. Falcon.
Mr. Falcon,
which is apparently when Die Hard 2 played on television, that's what they censored it with, Mr. Falcon. It's pretty good. Okay, anything else? Should we sign off?
Well, anyway, if you want to watch Die Hard with us and chat about that, we're doing it on the next episode apparently, but the Patreon only version.
So if you're listening to this episode approximately when it comes out, watch Die Hard this weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday or on Patreon.
Yeah. So then join the Patreon, and then you'll have access. Sweet. I want to say a heartfelt thank you to anyone that's actually listening to this, because it actually does mean a lot to us. Absolutely. And for anyone that goes that step further and leaves us a review and subscribes to the podcast, well, an even more deeper and more heartfelt thank you. And for anyone that goes that last step and joins the Patreon, well, fuck. Well, I guess I don't have to thank you because you get so much in return. It's almost like you should be thanking us for the opportunity, really. So I guess having said that, thank you from the bottom of my empty heart and Nate's full human heart and my milky blood. This has been another episode of It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles.
Goodbye.